Welcome to Talking Brains. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Sarkis at stephaniesarkis.com. This episode, I'll be talking with Dr. Tony Quaglieri about demystifying mindfulness. Dr. Quaglieri was featured on one of our most popular episodes from Season 1, our 5th episode called Anxiety, Burnout, Tribalism, and Taking Action. Dr. Quaglieri is a licensed mental health counselor in private practice in Tampa, Florida. He has been in practice for almost 40 years. He lectures nationwide about stress management and mindfulness. He can be found at anthonyquaglieri.com. That's Quaglieri. We're happy to have him back on Talking Brains. Do us a favor and please click that subscribe button and give Talking Brains a 5-star rating. It's appreciated. Enjoy the podcast. Welcome everyone to Talking Brains. I'm talking with Dr. Tony Quaglieri. He's a buddy of mine that's a therapist in Tampa, and he was on the podcast previously talking about tribalism, anxiety, and it's one of our most listened to episodes. So Tony's come back, and we're going to talk about mindfulness and demystifying mindfulness. So welcome back, Tony.
Thanks a lot, Stephanie. Hi, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Well,
other than we have a hurricane possibly coming here, but you know, we've lived here long enough.
Well, I'll fold that into our comments today in one way, some way.
You can probably tell both Tony and I, you've lived in Florida since the 70s.
Yeah.
And I've lived in Florida since the 80s. So when you've lived here, I think we have kind of a different view of hurricanes than people that just moved here, maybe.
Yes.
Because the grocery store has nothing in it right now.
Right.
And we're not even a direct hit. So,
right.
So, yeah. So we can talk a little bit, too, about maybe anxiety that group anxiety, too. That when you're around or watching the news or around people that are anxious, how we can be very smart and pulled together individually. But when we're around other people that are anxious, it seems contagious.
Yeah, that's true. I was driving home from work yesterday, and I happened to drive past the grocery store, and I just saw the parking lot completely jammed. Mm-hmm. And I thought I had a number of thoughts, but one of them is maybe I should be in there.
Right.
And I thought, why would I want to be in there?
Right. So you felt that thing, that biological drive that I must get 12 loaves of bread.
Right. Yeah. If everybody else is rushing there, I should too. And I felt my anxiety spike.
Yeah. Or looking at people and on Twitter videos, grabbing bread and empty shelves. And there's a scarcity thing that pops up. But I think biologically it serves a good purpose, which is if there's danger somewhere, you need to look at cues from other people. But in this case, the cues sometimes come from people watching hurricane news, and that tends to get sensationalized. And then people go to the store and there's just a frenzy. So you see somebody buying 5 gallons of water, you're like, well, I must also get 5 gallons.
Right.
And it's hard to take a step back and go, you know what, this is my autonomic nervous system kind of messing with me.
Right. Well, that's kind of, that kind of folds right into what we're talking about here, that when your flight or fight response gets activated, it's really an exquisite system, how our nervous systems are designed to turn on when we perceive danger, or if we think we're in danger, and all of the neurotransmitters, cortisol and epinephrine, and start to flood our brains and move into our bodies, and our bodies get ready for action. And so even if there's nothing to do, we're sitting kind of with this feeling of, I've got to move, I've got to do something.
Right.
And and thoughts can trigger that response too. So we'll talk a little bit later on about how mindfulness practices can really help with thoughts that trigger a physiological anxious response.
Good. So the idea is that mindfulness is you can kind of separate yourself out from the anxiety, at least temporarily, by doing some of the techniques we'll talk about. Would that be a good description?
Right, exactly. Well, you could do a number of things. That is probably one of the best, is that just kind of noticing that you are anxious I mean, just think about what the difference is, the difference in your experience between being anxious and it coming from out of the blue, and you're just sitting there nervous, and your difference between that and you're sitting there and you get anxious and you say to yourself, "Oh, I'm anxious. Oh, this is what's happening. My heart is racing. My mouth is getting dry." That just kind of understanding that you're anxious, as opposed to being in the dark about what's going on in your body, that alone is powerful.
And it sounds kind of counterintuitive that people try to avoid feeling anxiety.
Yeah. There's a lot of thanks for saying that. There's a lot of out of mindfulness techniques, more and more treatments of anxiety, or the way that people are learning how to deal with anxiety is to move toward it rather than away, which is very counterintuitive. Certainly, if you were in a forest in a jungle and a tiger was coming at you, you wouldn't go toward it. You certainly would run away from it. But when we're having thoughts that are creating anxiety that are really not signals of real danger, then the idea of kind of moving toward the anxiety and really trying to feel it and just kind of name it can actually dissipate it.
Would you say this is also applicable with panic disorder?
Yeah, absolutely. I think with enough practice, with any kind of meditation or any kind of cooling, we're talking about really like cooling the nervous system, actively cooling it, with any cooling down, learning how to cool it down, with enough practice, I think that a lot of anxiety disorders and panic disorders can be treated effectively.
And when we talk about mindfulness, I think sometimes there are different definitions out there, but what would you say would be your kind of working definition of mindfulness that you share with clients?
Well, it depends. It's really, the word really has become a buzzword. Back in the 70s and 80s, when it was first really kind of brought into mainstream by Jon Kabat-Zinn, it was a pretty new thing, and it was kind of synonymous with meditation, mindfulness meditation. And Jon Kabat-Zinn developed a stress reduction program around mindfulness techniques. And so he has his definition, which I really like, and it can be problematic. So let me read it to you. This is Jon Kabat-Zinn's definition. Mindfulness means paying attention on purpose in the present moment and without judgment. So let me read it again. Mindfulness means paying attention on purpose in the present moment and without judgment. So his definition is mindfulness means, not mindfulness is. So he's pointing to the word. And so there really is no mindfulness is.
Okay.
I don't know what to say.
No, that makes sense. It's a process rather than a thing. Okay.
That's right, exactly. It's not a thing to do. It's a number of things that you probably are already doing, and a number of things that you can learn to do, which are mindful. Now, that's a word that you can say, that's an is. That's mind, that when you're being mindful. And I think my simplest definition to kind of answer your question of like 5 minutes ago is, really basically stopping to smell the roses. So when I say that to you, stop to smell the roses, it's a cliche, but what comes to mind for you?
I think this stopping and being where you are. Yeah, I think of the Thich Nhat Hanh book, Be Where You Are, that being in the present moment. Or, I saw a t-shirt that said, Be Here Now. That kind of is what that means for me. So I didn't think I'd get inspiration from somebody's t-shirt at Target. But, but Be Here Now, I think is realizing what the breeze feels like in your face, or the sun, or how your feet feel on the earth. I mean, I think of that when I think stop and smell the roses, is be here now.
That's right. That's right. And so the phrase "stop to smell the roses" predates John Kabat-Zinn, by I think maybe a few decades. I think I heard it when I was a kid. Stop. It's good to stop and smell the roses, and that's mindfulness. That's a mindfulness technique, stopping to experience something, just like you said. So I'm glad you said the sun on your face and the breeze and stuff like that, because most people don't know it, but at least once a day, everybody who is listening to this podcast right now does something that's mindful. A smell will come by that you like, and you'll notice it, and you'll linger there for maybe a few seconds because you like it, or like you said, like a breeze, or like the sun on your face. When we're talking about teaching mindfulness techniques, we're teaching people how to do that more, doing what you already do more.
Oh, so it's very solution focused.
It is very solution focused. Yeah. So in my work with people, I really try to find out, how do you cool yourself down? And after they rattle off, well, I watch television and do those things, what do you do when you get quiet? What's it like for you?
Oh, because there's a difference between just getting quiet and relaxing. So there's, okay.
Yes. I mean, certainly watching television could be a way of getting away from the stressors of your life and doing other things that are just consume time, but you're directing your attention outwardly. Like with watching television, you're directing your attention really outward to something that's pulling you in. With mindfulness, you're placing your attention someplace. You're actively placing. So the part of Kabat-Zinn's definition where you are paying attention on purpose. So you're placing your attention. Oftentimes, I will tell my clients that when they leave, when I let them out the door, I say to them, on the way to your car, I'd like you to take a deep breath. I'd like you to look at the sky, see what you see, and I'd like you to listen for birds. It may sound small, but it's a little instruction on, don't just rush to your car, get in it, and go back to work. I mean, take a moment. It takes maybe 20 seconds to get to your car. In mindfulness time, that could be a really long time. Where you're taking a few breaths, just maybe smell what you smell, take a look and see how many different colors. It's kind of like I Spy. What do you hear? What's pleasurable about what you're seeing right now? And it helps you get out of your head.
Right. And what's interesting is when you said about the bird, a bird landed on a branch right outside the window.
Just then?
Yeah. And so as you're talking about, look at the colors, I'm looking at the tree colors. So I just started doing mindfulness because this bird showed up, and I thought, well, there's a sign I'm supposed to be doing this. So, and just from doing that, I was listening even more to what you were saying.
Oh, right. So it helped you focus on a number of things.
and I'm feeling kind of more at peace.
Wow. So it focused you.
It really did.
Yeah.
It really did. And it made me feel very calm.
Right. Yes, well, look at the effect of, I mean, really, yes, humans, we run around with pretty much runaway thoughts most of the time, and in our heads thinking, and some of the thoughts are useful and a lot of them aren't, and a lot of it is just noise. Just taking a moment to actively place your attention on something, it could be inside of you or outside of you, helps really just kind of corral your attention. And I know that you do a lot of work with ADD and attention deficit disorder, and I can't think of really anything that would be more helpful than teaching people with attention problems how to place their attention so they feel like you actually have control over where you are, what you are seeing, and what you are thinking about. I wanted to just, while we're still kind of on the subject of what is mindfulness. I really want to say what it's not, because there are misconceptions, and part of the demystification of mindfulness is mentioning that it's not paying attention because you ought to, and because something is going to go wrong if you don't, or because you should be doing something that you're not doing. And I've had a number of clients come in and tell me that they were practicing mindfulness, and when they described what it was really like, oh, I'm being a bad boy, I should pay attention.
Okay.
Right? So paying attention and placing your attention are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe that in the book, there is a book called Be Here Now by Ram Dass. It came out like in the 60s. It was really like one of the first, books by an American turned yogi. He's a fabulous person, Ram Dass. And he wrote a book called Be Here Now. And on the first page, he had these little memes, and one of them was pay attention. And it was split up into 3 words, pay attention. So that actually the order to pay attention required that you pay with tension in your body.
Oh.
So, right? Pay attention.
Right.
So as I was saying, I've had a few clients misconstrue that mindfulness really was that they needed to actually wrestle their attention down. Mm-hmm. And this is more like placing your attention. So if can I do a little exercise with you, and maybe the listeners can do it along? It'll take maybe about 20 seconds at the most.
That'd be perfect.
Great. So what it involves, I'll say a little bit first, and then we'll just have some silent time. Here's the exercise I'd like you and our listeners to do right now. It'll take about 20 seconds. So I'll tell you what it is first, and then we'll have some silent time where you will be actually doing this mindfulness exercise. I'll ask you just to kind of breathe normally, in and out. Pay attention to your breath. And while you're breathing normally like that, you can allow any thoughts to come in and out of your head, because they will. But the placing of the attention will be on looking for signs of your heartbeat in your body. So just like noticing where you feel it. And you're tuning in. So tuning inward, you might feel it in your chest, you might feel it in your toes, your fingers. So let's take a minute, and we'll count like maybe 25 seconds. Start now and look for your heartbeat and see how many places you might be able to locate it. Okay, so just take a deep breath and let that go. So since you're my only subject and you can give me some feedback.
Well, I noticed that I kind of snorted at the beginning. And that usually means that I'm getting into relaxation, and I feel like I felt like I had some quick hypnosis.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And
you went right in.
Mm-hmm. Right, yeah, and then I it's interesting because I don't remember hearing you exhale or saying that you had to exhale, but I remember myself exhaling. And when I exhaled, I'm like, oh, it must be done now. But right. I didn't actually hear you say it, but I'm assuming you did. And it's interesting. You can feel your heartbeat all over your body.
Yep.
I mean, in the beginning, I'm thinking, oh, I'm not doing this right because I don't really feel it. But then I said, okay, focus, and then I realized that, oh, it was in my fingertips. And then I traced it up my arm and around my body.
Right. And if you spent enough time with it, you'd be completely amazed at how many different places you could actually sense where your heart is beating. So the classic mindfulness exercise is simply a breathing exercise where you are breathing and you are feeling the breath. So it sounds ridiculously simple. And for us Westerners, slowing down and paying attention to your breath, when you hear that for the first time, you think that whoever's telling you to do that is crazy. Because first of all, why do that? Because we breathe all the time. And second of all, what's it going to get me? The first answer why do that is because we breathe. I think the number is 26,000 times a day. So every 24-hour cycle, we breathe 26,000 times a day. And we can go without food for days. We can go without water for days. We can't go without air for 3 minutes. So this is the most vital function in our bodies, and taking a moment to just kind of pay attention to it, meaning notice how the air comes in. You'll notice that it will be cool when it comes into your body, and it'll be warm in your nostrils when it leaves your body. So just sometimes noticing that, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, can just shift your attention. Noticing where the air goes in your lungs, how far down it goes, how far your rib cage expands to the left and to the right, if your breastbone rises, if your diaphragm lowers when you breathe in. I think one of the most fascinating things I've learned about breathing that I didn't realize is that when we breathe in, we use exertion muscles, but when we breathe out, we just relax. We don't have to push the air out of our lungs every time we breathe. And just kind of feeling that for a moment, the engagement of the muscles when you breathe in, and then the just kind of absolute letting go and letting the air leave until it gets to the bottom and then bringing it back in. Again, those kinds of things and other mindfulness, even mini mindfulness exercises, helps a person get a sense of, oh, I have control over this body. And I have control. I have a sense of, I can actually place my attention on what's going on with me.
I feel really relaxed just listening to you.
Just listening. Yeah. I'm feeling relaxed talking about it. I was noticing today, we had talked about the hurricane a little bit earlier, that I woke up feeling pretty good, and I got my breakfast, and then I opened up I was thinking about the hurricane, and I noticed that as I was thinking about the hurricane, you could just, if you're paying attention, you can feel where the tightness is starting, the constriction of breath, the lightheadedness sometimes, the dryness of the mouth, just thoughts about things can create that. And by tuning in and by actively trying to cool yourself down, you get a sense of, oh, I have mastery over this, and the hurricane is not on top of me now.
It expresses that even more clearly when the weather's beautiful, which is how it is right before a hurricane. So it's interesting that it's just gorgeous weather and the temperature is actually a bit lower than usual. And yet you feel very on edge over something that you have just heard about on the media or on the hurricane websites. And so that's very telling that it comes from you, not so much the outside.
Right. Not to say that the outside isn't trying to make you anxious, but that's another story.
And it sounds like there's really no way to do this incorrectly, because I know I work sometimes with people with anxiety, and they're concerned that they're not going to do it in the right way. And what would you say to people that are concerned about that?
There's no right way, and let's just see what happens. I like to give people permission to let their minds go, because people think that meditation or any kind of practice of going inward requires that you clear your mind. If you ask people, if you ask people if they have ever meditated, they'll say, "Oh no, I can't do that. I can't clear my mind." Somehow, one of the myths really about meditation in general has been that you have to. It's a practice of making no thoughts whatsoever, which personally I don't feel is actually possible. And why do it? Because you can relax your body and think at the same time. Really, by using mindfulness techniques and meditating, I'm using those two interchangeably, because mindfulness is meditation. And you'll see mindfulness used as a separate word, and you'll see mindfulness meditation used together. But anytime you're mindful, it is a form of meditation because you're directing your attention. You're training. It's just like doing arm curls. Whenever you take some time to listen in and actively place your attention, it's like you really are strengthening the muscles of your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest cooling nervous system. So we have the sympathetic, which is, we had mentioned before, which is fight or flight. There's always a conversation between the sympathetic fight or flight and the parasympathetic cooling nervous system. There's always back and forth conversation. And by exercising the rest and digest cooling part of your nervous system, you can balance out your anxiety.
And it's so simple too.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that's part of what I think, we as Americans and Westerners in general feel like something like that can't be so simple.
Right.
But the simple breathing exercise, and here's my classic. I would like to give this before we end. My classic breathing exercise is breathing in at the count of 4. So you just breathe in and count to 4, hold it for a second, and then breathe out, and then let it out at the count of 6. So in at the count of 4, out at the count of 6, in at the count of 4, out at the count of 6. And you do that maybe for 5 minutes, 10 minutes a day. Again, you can think whatever you want. You could let the sugar plum fairies go through your head, but as long as you're counting and paying attention to the breath, that alone will change your whole day.
Wow, yeah, that works really well. And you can do this anywhere.
Mm-hmm. You can do it anywhere. I tell people to do it at a red light.
Right.
You can get 1 or 2 in at a red light, or if you're in traffic, stuck in traffic, breathe in at the count of 4, let it out at the count of 6.
And whatever thoughts come into your mind, you can just acknowledge those thoughts and just let them sit with you.
Yep, there they are. Mm-hmm. Right.
And just doing that kicks in your parasympathetic nervous system.
Yep.
That's pretty remarkable.
That kicks it right in. So, and it really is like exercise. So I tell, sometimes again, clients will say, well, I had anxiety. I had an anxiety attack and I tried to breathe and it didn't work. Well, no, it didn't work because it was too late. Mm-hmm. Like once your fight or flight system gets triggered, you're way off the curve and there's no amount of, it's just going to take time for all of your systems, cortisol and the adrenaline to really kind of move through and get, I'm not saying don't do it. I'm just saying that it's just like any other kind of exercise. By exercising when you're not anxious, by cooling your nervous system down, you will get triggered less.
So it's kind of like maintenance.
Yes.
Right. That's an important thing to bring up, is that you can do this at any time, anywhere, on a regular basis. Maybe, would you suggest maybe even setting a timer on a watch or on your phone to do mindfulness?
Yeah, I do think if you're a morning person, I think morning is, getting 10 minutes in. If you have a patio, to go out on the patio, there's plenty to look at, listen to, breathe, look at the colors, look at the shapes of the clouds, listen to the sounds. 10 minutes, set it on a timer. That will change the course of your day.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate it, Tony.
You're really welcome. I like talking about this. There are a lot of online resources, like everything that's become popularized, that there are claims that mindfulness can cure, this and cure that. But there's some good mindfulness talks on TED Talks I'd recommend. Also, the website mindful.org is very valuable. And there's almost too much on the internet. So I would say just kind of be careful about where you go, and just start small. It doesn't really take much.
So it's mindful.org.
And there's a YouTube video. It's a 10-minute TED Talk by a man by the name of Paul Puddicombe, Puddicomb. A neat guy, and he talks about, it's called 10 Mindful Minutes. And I love showing that to people. When I give my talks on stress reduction and burnout and stuff like that, I always show this video because it's very accessible. He makes mindfulness very accessible.
It says Puddicomb, Paul Puddicombe, and it's 10 mindful minutes.
10 mindful minutes. Yep.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Tony. I appreciate it. I know I feel relaxed. Sounds like you also said you feel relaxed, and hopefully people listening feel more relaxed. So, and it sounds like even if you do this a minute a day, it counts.
Anything. Just because it's, you are actually deliberately placing your attention on something, and you're telling yourself, hey, you don't have to be a slave to your thoughts. You can direct your attention when you want to.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome. I love doing this. Thanks for the opportunity.
Oh, you're welcome. Always a pleasure. Thank you for listening to this episode of Talking Brains. I'm your host, Dr. Stephanie Sarkis at stephaniesarkis.com. Thank you to Dr. Tony Quaglieri, licensed mental health counselor. Dr. Quaglieri can be found at anthonyquaglieri.com. That's Quaglieri. Please hit subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. It's appreciated. Thank you and have a great day.